here we are in the navigation system of the entire planet. The new navigation system that is leading the mind of everyone, the energy of the world. In this island full with hills that are hidden under the concrete. The navigation system of the new Atlantis. So I wonder why I'm here. Maybe it's because I've been following a tiny mouse or a crazy rabbit that lost time. So who knows why I'm here in New York. So following the clues, I just arrived to New York in the day of transition and alchemy between sodium and magnesium. And I'm trying to figure out and researching about why I'm supposed to be here the day of that transformation. And I think I'm getting it. Squirrel! Okay. My attention is lost. So, why am I here? I didn't know exactly. So I have no idea why I'm here. But I remember the first time that I came to New York, I couldn't go anywhere else but here in between the trees in Central Park, because I couldn't stand the energy of this city. I flew directly from Reykjavik, from Iceland, to New York to have a meeting with the sponsor of Harwitum, and who was Armenian, and I couldn't do anything else but laying down under the trees here in Central Park. And so I started to follow the clues of this island, and of course Manhattan, or Manhattan, which is the city of many, the land or island of many hills. It's a place, it's a place that reminds us of Atlantis, an island surrounded by water that has controlled the mind and the power of the entire planet. And as I was also in Cyprus recently, connecting all the dots in the stream of the UN in between Turkey and Greece, the information was it's all within the UN to turn into one. So the UN, the headquarters of the UN, are here. So, and this place is also called the Big Apple. So following the apple, following the UN, following the whole system that I am trying to understand. So here I am in the Big Apple. And the reason why this is called the Big Apple is also very interesting, because it's not because it has the shape of an apple or nothing like that. It's because it was the raising of horses. So so many years ago, like 60 or more years ago, there were these rising how to say hippodromo, where the horse ride, and you bet and all those things. So everywhere in the state they used to like bet for the horses, and the most important prize was here in New York. So in the South they used to call like, if you win the prize or you run in New York, it's because you're biting the bigger apple, like you have the biggest prize. So that turned into a synonym for this island. So whoever came here to race horses for the race tracks of the horses, they would come to this place where you get the bigger apple, okay, which is the bigger prize. So that's why it's called the Big Apple. But also, what is interesting is that following the apple, the poison apple of the system, so it leads us here. So I told you Kazakhstan is the origin of the apple, but here you have the rotten apple or the poison apple of the entire world. And what is interesting of this connection with Kazakhstan is that Kazakhstan is the place where people started to ride horses for the first time in history. That's where we domesticated horses and we learned how to ride horses. So when we talk about horse speed or horse power, when you ride a car, for example, is because of the horses. How many horses do you need to ride faster with much more power? So if you go back to the first apple, which is in Almaty, and also the first territory where we found out how to ride a horse and go horse speed, so suddenly both things are connected in the Big Apple that we call New York. So this place is the Atlantis of our time. And of course, there are many codes here to reveal about what does it mean, but I'm going to relate it to what we are doing today, which is the alchemy between sodium, which is horsepower, is all the energy that is destructive if it's not in the right rail, and in the other hand, we have the transformation towards magnesium, and magnesium comes from a region in Greece called Magnesia, that means the greater one, Magna, it's the big one, and it's where the magnets come from, the first place where they start to talk about magnets. So magnetism is from magnesium also, but in our chemical realm, magnesium, what it does is to calibrate the body. So it basically takes the energy of the body and directs it into the right way, so the enzymes of our body can administrate the energy. So so I was like wondering, so what does it mean? Why are we connecting from New York magnesium, which is the calibration system of ATP, which is the energy that creates the cell? So within the cell, this compound of adenine and magnesium and oxygen and phosphorus, they get together and create the structure for energy in our body. But that energy cannot be accepted by the enzymes if the magnesium doesn't get it and share it in the right way. So basically it's the element that puts the signature, validating the value, like giving the right value to a coin. So imagine that inside your body, your mitochondria is the central bank that print money, but You can print all the money that you want, but if there's no one that validates how much that weights, what is the value, what is the weight of salt of all of this, what is the salary, what is the cost or the value of the things that you are receiving. So it's just like throwing money, and we call it inflation. So it actually is lost energy. So you need someone that validates that, and that someone that puts the signature and says this is the actual value of things is magnesium. So magnesium is the one that validates this ATP and tells the other parts of the cell, hey, this is what this is for, and this is its value. So it calibrates and administrates that everything is in harmony, is in balance. So that is kind of the work of magnesium, to take the power of sodium and transform it into balance and energy that is exchangeable in the right value. So once we understand this, now we go to the history. The first people that did this in the world, the first people that established a common value for all the coins in planet Earth by a system of finance that defined the value of every exchange, was in 1602, in the 17th century, by the Dutch people in the Netherlands. So they founded a bank that was not printing money, that was actually giving value through signature to the money that was going from one colony to the other. So this is very important, because Amsterdam was the first place where we created the economical magnesium for all the ATP that exists in the planet, which was silver, gold, and any sale or print money that existed in the planet at that time. So it created the right balance of value. And what happened after that was that it created, in a few years after that, they created a settlement in the Americas to expand that system, and that place was called New Amsterdam. So that New Amsterdam, that tiny village called New Amsterdam, had a wall that was defending it from the outsiders. So it was a protection in between the rivers within the island. So that wall had a street. So it was the protection of the New Amsterdam village. And that's what we call Wall Street. Yeah. So the Netherlands people, the Dutch people, created that wall to protect the place that represented the financial value of magnesium in this new system in the 17th century. And of course, a few decades after, the British took over, and honoring the Duke of York, they renamed it into New York. Yeah. So that was the change of power, but actually the Dutch people from Amsterdam were the ones that calibrated that system of magnesium. But since the British took over, suddenly the system of magnesium started to be a completely different thing. And now magnesium cannot be trusted, and Wall Street is basically using the ATP in the wrong way. So there is much more to discover in this journey, but I wanted to share this so you have all this information in mind for this day, so you can connect with the work that we're going to do along the day. So I will keep researching. Bye. Interesting also is that when you move a stone from one place to another, you open a door. So every stone is like a key, and when you move it around, you create a portal. So of course, you all know that there is an Egyptian obelisk in New York that is called Cleopatra's Needle, and the other one is in London, by the way. So if you're in London, you can go see it. So this one and the one in London, they were in the axis of the doors of Heliopolis, the capital of Egypt in the ancient times. And it's very interesting that this is in this city and in London, because that mark the 2 points that controls the power of the mind, the power of economics, the power of time. So they were gifts from a captain that helped in the war of the Sinai to get the Suez Canal back. So Egypt gave this to as a gift for those captains, one for the States and the other one for England. So it's like, you are welcome. You have the keys to the door of Egypt, basically. So when you move an obelisk, it's like moving power from one side to the other. And when you're moving a stone, you're opening a portal. And the obelisk here are symbolized like a needle. So if this is a needle, it's like the acupuncture of the system. So so this is a very interesting place to actually do acupuncture in the entire island, related to the oldest of powers, because this is from the gate of the capital of Egypt. Yeah. It's not just about Cleopatra, it's about the capital of Egypt. It's at the gate. So from London to New York, these two are opening the gate throughout the Atlantic Ocean. And in our system of alchemy, it represents the opening of a channel of power. So we are talking here about ATP, yeah, which is the energy that we turn into money. We were talking about the covenant of salt, which is the salary, the value of things. And that value has been established by the colonies of England and the States in the past 400, 500 years. So because of that, the energy of the planet is being handled, let's say, in between these two portals. But actually, the power is alchemical, because Alkemet is the name of Egypt, remember. So in between those places, we can do alchemy. So there are many hidden codes that are talking to us about what is the energy work that we have to do. And in this case, it's relating to who put the signature to give value to things. Yep, so a lot to say, and I will keep sharing. So here was the wall. Exactly at the Trinity Church, and walking that way until the other side of the city. All of this was the wall that defended from the outsiders what once used to be New Amsterdam. And now it's all the financial district. So, of course, there's no wall right now. But the essence, the frequency of that story is here. In the street with the wall. And all around this territory there was the Manhattan, the islands with many hills. Is where we settle the data, the information of all the financial system. So let's try to understand a little bit about what is this place, and try to walk through the ancient energy of this territory. So well, facing the stock exchange. So today I was saying something about why the people from Amsterdam came to this place. So in the 1600s, the expansion of all the colonies from Europe started to become the main economy in the entire world. So in the 1400s, late 1400s, when the Spanish people started to take over the Americas, the British follow, and the Portuguese and French and Germans and Belgian. But at one point, the Dutch people from the Netherlands, they started together and to create something completely different from all the other regions in Europe. At the time that the people in Europe were expulsing different free thinkers and economists from the rest of Europe because they were becoming empires expanding throughout the entire globe. What they did, what most of the countries in Europe did, was to create colonies, colonialism. And the Dutch people did kind of something different from that, which was to call all the people that the empires were kicking away, and they received them all in the wetlands of the Netherlands. And as they were receiving all of them, like free thinkers, economists, Jews, many people that have studied, writers, philosophers, all of them found a way to kind of survive in between the wetlands. So they didn't form an empire, they did form a different kind of society that thought in a different way. They were thinking in other terms that was not just expansion, but administration of the expansion. And so they created something that could administrate a new civilization, a new society. So it was not just about economy, it was about a way of thinking, the beginning of a new way of administrating the value, of administrating the culture, the thinking of a new civilization. So what Netherlands created was a new system of navigation of consciousness. And during all that time, something that they did was to literally control the navigation system of the planet. So they created the Capitanie of the Netherlands, a company that would create boats all over the world and would go to all the southern islands of the planet. So they were the first ones on touching the extremes of the planet Earth, close to Antarctica, in all the islands of the south, even the Falkland Islands, Tierra del Fuego in Ushuaia, all these lands in the south, of course New Zealand, which actually is named by New Zealand because of Zeeland, which is Netherlands. So it was a whole shift of perception, because it was the first country that started to anchor their energy in every corner of the south. So they started to control something that we call the origin. So if you have planet Earth, if you take planet Earth and you create, you see the North Pole and the South Pole. So the North Pole, the magnetical North Pole, is where we are heading. Is the North Star, is the direction of our mind, is the future. But if we are thinking to the opposite, so if the North is the future, so what is the origin? So we have to go to the South. So the origin is the one that basically traces all the paces that we give, because destiny is not talking about the future, it's talking about where you are standing. That's what the word destiny means from where I am standing. So when you know where you're standing, you trace the lines to where you are heading to. So that's why destiny is not written in the future or the north. Destiny is written in your heels, where you are standing. So whoever controls the heel, whoever controls the south, whoever goes to Antarctica, to the other side of the planet, controls the origin and the direction of everything. So in the meantime, Germany, Spain, Portugal, France, Belgium, they were expanding throughout the colonies. The Netherlands were trying to control the south. The Netherlands were trying to go to the origin. So all the southern islands in the Indian Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean were taken by the boats of the Netherlands. And that's how the Netherlands became the controllers of the system. And as they control the system from within, what they did was to create also their way to control the value, the power. But they didn't do this in a way of trying to control, but to trying to administrate. When I'm speaking about these things, I'm not talking about the Netherlands or the Dutch people in that time being evil or trying to control humanity, because that's the easiest narrative that we usually fall into. Usually when we talk about these things and we start to discover all the things that are hidden, that are controlling us from behind, we tend to believe that there was someone trying to control us, or someone against, or someone trying to manipulate us. But actually, what is happening is that the system is trying to compensate, to organize itself all the time. So as the system tries to organize it, it's inevitable that some other parts of the system feels that are controlled. But what actually is happening is that there is a homeostasis, a system trying to find order. So what the Netherlands did, sorry, there's a lot of noise. So what the Netherlands did was basically to create a new system to try to get out of the old system where value had no purpose, where we had no idea what we were doing, because value was lost. So they created a system of a new type of value, and they established the value of the coin throughout the entire planet, controlling the origin and the system of value. Follow the white rabbit. So what we are walking through is a system of calibration of the mind and the power that controls the mind. So I am walking you through a territory that actually represents the navigation system of the planet from south to north. The island of Manhattan is organized like a boat. Look into a map and you will observe the island in the shape of a boat. So where I am right now is actually the bow of the boat, where the boats of the Dutch used to come and they used to settle in this place. So all the power that controls the origin was settled here and in Amsterdam and the new Amsterdam. This is the territory that started to control the origin. Many things happen in between, of course, but the system of navigation is still controlling the financial system, controlling the value of things. It's the same banks, the same systems that were created in that time. They are actually called the magnetical North Pole of consciousness, something that the ancient ones called Rupes Nigra. So Rupes Nigra means black stone, but when the black stone is not in tone, it becomes a black rock. And a black rock, when it's set in the north, it controls all the value system of planet Earth. So I don't know if you have heard about this code of black rock. So I remind you again, in the ancient times, a black stone, Rupes Nigra in Latin, was what every sailor, every marine would follow, thinking, oh, this is the north. The right north is pointing literally towards the south. That eagle is right pointing towards the south. And as you move towards the south, you find liberty. But the code of the liberty is not just pointing south. It was created in Paris, France. The code of France is important in this system of navigation because France was what once we called the line of the rose. The rose is the system of navigation. Find the wind rose. Is the roses that point the right direction. It's the meridian that all the sailors used to use. But then when the British took over New Amsterdam, when the British took over the seas, they changed it to London instead of Paris. So all the navigation system and all the power changed. The system of metric, the system of economics, the system of measurements, of distance, everything was changed. So, when that system of navigation was changed, all the consciousness that navigates time was also changed. Remember that all reality is just a constant calibration of atoms and particles. So, whenever something in history shifts from one latitude or one meridian to another, it also changes in our mind. It's also changing in our perception, because all the navigation system of the planet is connected. So the meridians, the parallels that we have in the planet, the navigation of the consciousness throughout the oceans, through the origin of the South Oceans and the purpose and the future of the North Oceans, they are all connected to our mind. I was thirsty. So, why are we here? Because remember a few months ago when I started to talk about Iran, about Israel, about the snake and the apple, about the poison and all of that. So when we spoke about all of that, we also talked about something called Bugonia. So Bugonia is when a bull, which is Serapis, turns into bees. So it means that the power of earth, the power of gold, turns into the spiritual realm of consciousness. So not because the bull is the wrong thing, but because you are transcending the matter, you are transcending the system. So they used to call Bugonia in Greek to that transformation from the material world to the spiritual realm. And here, one of the main images that we have in this system, in this place, is the bull. So, yeah, so is the bull, the charging bull, as a symbol of money, symbol of power, symbol of finance, of economy and control of the value of things. So this is not something new. This is so ancient that is related to the Taurus constellation. And the heart of the Taurus, the heart of the bull, is actually the seven sisters that you call Pleiades. So the bull is not something bad. The bull just represents the creation and the matter and the powers of this reality. So it's a good thing. The only problem is when there are no transformation towards the beast, which is actually the spiritual realm, the connection with the consciousness, the beehive of the system. It only turns into a bull. So the bull is facing towards the wall, like facing whatever is in the north, telling this is our north and I will defend the south, the power that is in the south. And if you look into the map, you will see it facing towards the north, like this is our north. But Amsterdam was controlling the south, the origin. So this area here is controlling the value of the entire planet, which means, in other words, that it's controlling the value we have in our minds. From where we proceed to do things, from where are we creating, from where are we doing what we do. And that code is very, very important to understand. So there are many things that we all can reveal together from this game that we're playing in this reality. But I will leave you here with this idea. What is the origin of our value? Because when we start to think about it in a personal way, when we start to think about it as something from our own life, we can start calibrating ourselves to understand the actual system that we need to calibrate, which is bigger. It's a whole other story. It's a bigger system that is related to the entire planet. So remember, your head, your mind, your soul is just a fractal of the entire planet. You just live around 80 years in this planet, and then your cells come back to the soil and transform again into part of the atoms that nourish the ground. So you're not something separate. You are just a fractalization of the problem, or a creation that expands throughout the entire planet. And we are just living a tiny slice of something that is much bigger. So when we live this from our point of view, and we can just do our own game and try to resignify what is our own value, what is my origin, what is the power that comes from my bloodline, from my ancestry. We can do that research for our own selves, but sooner or later that system will be reflected in the history, and suddenly we will see that our own personal story is just another fractalization of a whole nation, of a whole race, of a whole culture, species. And suddenly you understand that you are just living a slice of the history of Earth. And by calibrating yourself in that story, you calibrate the entire planet. But also you can do things like I'm doing, which is going to the places within the brain of the planet and try to figure out the history or the traumas or stories that are trapping all of us together. So here I am in the new Atlantis, seeing in real time what happened also 12,000 years ago when we didn't follow the right stars. So now we are living in a different era, but the financial system is still following the bull, which was around 6,000 years ago. So chaos is around it. So remember the story about Moses when he got mad because the other Jews created a bull to honor the gods of Egypt. So remember that story, because it's all encoded here. So that's it. I left you some things to think about, and let's keep changing our perception of reality.